All right. So we're actually going to get right into the next panel discussion. This one will focus on user experience design. We have a great set of speakers, and I hope you'll join me in welcoming them. Thank you. So I'll actually pass the mic on to Joel, and maybe then we can do that going forward. If you want to just say a few words about yourself, a little bit about your background, the kind of work that you're doing right now before we get into the panel discussion, that would be awesome. Thank you.
Hello? Okay, cool. Just before I start, I'd just like to do another round of applause for all the speakers today, because this is just amazing that we were able to get everyone together tonight. I want to have like 500 people here next year. My name's Joel Popoff. I just started with Powered by Search 5 days ago, so haven't even been hatched. I'm brand new still. My experience in design, I don't have a ton of experience, but I guess compared to everyone else at Powered by Search, I might have a bit when it comes to design. I actually co-founded Go Live Entertainment, which was the largest, regarded as the fastest growing concert promotions company in Canada. So we did acts such as Carly Rae Jepsen, Down with Webster, Dragonette, Matthew Good, a bunch of different acts. And now I've come to Powered by Search, and I'm super excited. And I'm going to pass the mic off to Ghazaleh.
Hi, I'm Ghazaleh, and I went to school for graphic design at OCAD. And I graduated in 2008. My first endeavor into the world after school was kind of trying to do my own thing for a while, just trying to set up a social enterprise. I helped start a festival between on Bloor between Ossington and Lansdowne. It's called the Big on Bloor. That was a big festival I was a part of. I did a lot of social work for a couple while in the neighborhood, and then I just decided I need to start working and make some money. So started working in a design agency and just evolved to working at RIM for a while. I worked at Polar Mobile, I worked at B-Notions, worked at another startup called Influitive, which is advocate marketing. I don't know, you might have heard of them. And now I work at Kobo as an information architect. So that's related to user experience, so we can find out what that means later.
Hi, my name is Yasmine, Rafat, and I work for Scotiabank as a user experience manager, and I manage their international countries, which is mostly Caribbean and Central America. And before that, I used to work for CIBC, and I graduated from York University.
Thanks. Hello, my name is Amy Mamtura, and I was a former UX architect at Publicis. I have a design background, design education background, so I went to YSDN, York Sheridan Design Program, and right out of university, my first position was as a web designer at Disney Online Studios, and that experience was really founding for me, going from web designing, understanding user experience online, and that's where I'm at right now as a UX architect. And what I do now is I have my own consultancy, so it's called Levitate 3. I welcome you to check it out online. My services include web design, user interface design, and user experience. And I'm excited to be here.
Okay, so my first question, because user experience has probably been around for a while, but I was just doing a little bit of research on it, and it's a very broad topic, so I just wanted one of you to just describe what really it is and what do you do in like a day-to-day role.
Our user experience team at Kobo comprises of researchers, technical writers, visual designers, information architects, and we work very closely with developers. And me particularly, I work very closely with product owners, both on the web and on the apps teams. So it's a very collaborative team, and we work with researchers and look at their research, and we also work directly with the executives. So anything that comes top down comes to our team. If we have a new website that we are launching because of a marketing mission or something that the company is trying to evolve into, like a new feature or something, to differentiate from the Kindle. Those are things that come to us, or we are sometimes part of the ideation process as well. So how can we be a better product? How can we improve our product, which is very important. So it sort of goes all the way around for the whole company and the whole product, and a lot of teams are also collaboratively involved with us.
For me, user experience is very broad. So our team is maybe about 10 people that we work on a user experience, and it includes designers, developers, managers, and people who do analytics on the website. So for me, user experience, in my point of view, in the online base, is when the user comes to online and try to experience anything that is on your page. So, from clicking on a button, getting user data information, which goes to the analytics department, or even collaborating with the IT department, everything could be, goes to the user experience category. So that's.
For me, day-to-day activities as a UX architect was centered around thinking about what the user is looking to do when they're interacting with the product. What are all the different use cases that they're going to come across, and how can we better our product and the messaging that we provide around that product to account for all those user experiences. So my day-to-day would be generally thinking about what those processes are for a user, how they're getting to the page, what they're looking for, how to design that page in a way that helps them accomplish their task. And I do that by doing user research, learning more about the company that I'm working, if I'm working on a product, trying to learn more about their brand vision, their brand promises, and try to bring all of that onto a web page, for example, when I'm trying to place copy, or I'm trying to place images in the right spot, or trying to think about what will bring value on that page. So for example, if I'm thinking about how can I urge the user to buy a product on that page, what's going to help them, what's going to convince them to buy a product on that page. So I'm thinking about all those psychological cases that a user is going to go through.
Okay, and I just wanted to know, for any business owners in the audience, or just so that people know, how do you sell people on user designer experience? Why should someone hire someone like one of you for their business? Where will it get them?
Oh, okay. Okay, so why, I guess the way I interpret that question is, why is UX important, and how can we sell UX? So whenever I don't think about selling UX, because at the end of the day, users need products, and if you have created a product, you've probably sourced a need. So the issue is basically communication, how to communicate a need that's out there and related to what you're selling. So whenever I think about UX as a selling point, I think about what really makes people want to use things. It's when it's easy. So I think about all the points that the company is looking to bank on. So my product is easier to use. So maybe I have a demo on that page that shows, how easy it is to use. And when I'm selling that, or when I'm communicating how my UX solution is going to help the company sell a product better, I'm generally talking about what the problem was, so where we started, what the solution is, and what the result of that solution will be. And that helps everyone understand why we are doing the UX that we're doing. Why am I here to help you improve your landing page? What are we trying to accomplish? And to make sure that the solution sources back to the problem and how it is being solved and how it's going to improve your chances to get a sale. So focusing on the need is how I would go about selling UX, but also always starting, anytime you explain your process to your client, it's really important to talk with empathy. You want to put yourself in not only their shoes, but their consumer shoes. So you put your consumer hat on and you say, if I was your consumer, this is what I would be looking for. This is what would make me convert. You want to use your own understanding of your own psychology to try to help your clients see through their customers, because maybe they don't always understand that. They might have goals for profit, but users, to understand users is very important, because when you do that, the profits happen automatically. It's the result. It's not, as somebody said earlier, it's not like what you're trying to do all the time. You're not trying to make a profit. You're trying to understand your user. When you do that, you make a profit.
I think I come from a design background, so my experience in selling things has been actually designing things and prototyping things and talking about it and displaying it and getting excited about it. So a lot of it has to do with kind of being a salesperson and just understanding what you're presenting and doing a good job of presenting that and doing a good job visually presenting that, because a lot of times if something looks great, there's no words for it. You just know that it's working. You know that it's great. So it comes down to the visual, I think, to be able to sell something to someone and to be able to tell a compelling story that makes users interested in what you're offering them.
I think it's really important to know your clients. Don't go and design something that you think is amazing, and then your client is going to see and they will be like, what? Well, this is great, but this is not what I need. So I think it's really important to consider your clients, just know your customers as much as you can. And if you have stakeholders, if you have people that have a say on the design, then definitely consult with them and see how they feel about it. I know that there are great designers out there, and I've been, I myself been guilty of always designing something and showing to the client and be like, well, this is amazing, but that's not what they need. So I think that's very important.
I think sometimes you have to tell them what they need.
At this time, I'd like to take any questions from the audience you'd like to ask our panel. Yep, any one of you.
How often do you base like the design on focus groups or test studies versus what you, from your experience, know works best, and which one usually works better?
I can answer that. We usually have focus groups. So we sit down and we talk with all the designers, we talk with developers, and we brainstorm, we come up with ideas, and but at the bottom line, you have to present that to your stakeholders. So you have to present that to your client, and if you cannot convince them, and if it's a great design, then not good for you. So before that, I would say, try to know them, so see what they're coming from, what is their business objectives. If you're just, designing based on your own, ideas, then I don't think that's such a good practice.
I think you also mean like research, user research results as well with focus groups. So research, again, is a component of our user experience team. So what they do is have a series of questions to ask users, and they have different kinds of users, whether they're Kobo readers, or they have the Kobo app and read it on their tablet. So they have very specific kinds of users that they can bring in and ask certain questions about how does this make you feel, or what it. I mean, I'm not a researcher. I haven't done these questions, but they do also come from us as well as from the UX design team, where we sometimes want to know if the users would potentially respond well to a certain design that we have. So we do design it. We actually prototype or create a build, and then bring in users and have them actually interact with the product, and then we get feedback, and then we apply the feedback. So a lot of it is, and also we do it in-house. Like, for instance, I can go up to anyone that's sitting around me in Kobo that I don't, in a different floor. We have 4 floors of people. So we can go and just give something to them and have them react to something and tell them to do something and see how they respond, and then go back with the feedback and sometimes completely reconsider it, because you would think something is intuitive where really the user was taking a while to figure out what to do. So those results will always give you really good feedback.
Your question, sir.
Quick question. Have any of you worked with companies that use EEG or eye tracking tools to do your observational analysis of everything?
I worked at a small startup, and they used this application to see where people were clicking. And so yeah, it tracked clicks on the page, and it was differentiated by color, so you could see where people were clicking a lot, and many ways of breaking that down. So it gives you a lot of good insight, and you can also do A/B testing. We actually do a lot of A/B testing, which means you kind of throw a feature out to a certain segment of people, and you keep the old version for some other people, and then you see how, or you kind of spread out different kinds of designs to different segments of people, and you see how they respond to it, and then you take that data and feedback. An example of that is the Facebook search icon at the top, or the search field at the top. Some of you don't even have the newer Facebook with the search at the top, but that's a way to explain what A/B testing is. Some people get it, some other people don't. Some people get a white search box, some other people get a blue search box, and whoever clicks the most, kind of wins. So that it really goes by how users interact with a certain design, and then that usually takes priority, and then you end up with a new design after quick A/B testing.
Thank you. And do you still remember your question?
Do I?
Yeah.
Yes. For a small business who can't afford the talent that's sitting at the table, what do you see as the most common business mistakes they make with their website? Because as someone in the business, you must look at them and go, God, this person was even thinking when they did this.
One of the things that I've seen, and this is not only a small business, this is a big business, Scotiabank, is that we had users that they were complaining about, where is your sign-in button? So they come to the website and they're looking for that. And so one of the things that we did is that we redesigned our website. So if you go to scotiabank.com, you can pick any of the international countries, or even the .com itself. And now the sign-in button is very obvious and is on the right-hand side of the page. So that made it easier for the users to click and to sign in to where they want to go. Whereas before that, it was a really tiny link in somewhere in the page, and nobody could find it. So I think that could be, one of the mistakes that they can make. Whereas this is the most important thing for the user to sign in to where they want to go and check their accounts. So.
I'd say one of the places that you can lose a lot of customers or potential customers is navigation. users should be able to find the content that you have on your site in a way that's digestible, it's quick to get to. So what I mean by digestible, whatever content that you have on your website is most likely important to your product. It's important to converting that user. So having it in a well-designed format, one that is quick to remember, to understand, with supportive graphics, things like that, those are areas that you can quickly improve on your own. And then also, obviously, users being able to find that content. So your navigation being easily findable. Also, the terms that you use in each of those navigation buttons are easy to understand. They relate to the content that you have on the page. Those are all really important improvements that can be made without a UX designer all the time. But if you pay attention to those areas, those are key, and that would help your website be more profitable for you.
Also, I mean, I think most of us are aware of like WordPress and sites, CMS websites that are out there, and those have kind of made things easier for people to set up a website than you did, like, 7 years ago. So now it's way easier. You can, buy something, a template even, that has a design that you like, for not a significant amount. Sometimes it's just $30, or more. So but not obviously as much as like hiring someone to build your website from scratch, paying a designer, paying a developer, all of that. So that's what those tools are there for. And I would encourage anyone to use them, just setting up a basic website, but then, get more into the templates and learn a little bit more about how to work within those templates. And they always, they give good results. That's why we have so many websites now.
Just to add to that, if you're interested in a particular place to get a template, Themeforest is a great place to check out. They have tons of templates on there that you can download for as low as what you said, $30 or $40, $50. These are full WordPress templates. You can just download and start to customize. They have support on there as well, so that you can learn about how to customize your WordPress site. It's called Themeforest. Theme as in Theme, forest.
Themify as well. Any more?
You, sir, at the back?
Just a quick question. As far as website design goes for usability, then, in the past, websites you'd have to scroll down, and now the last couple of years it's changed to everything above the fold. What's sort of your take on it? Is that changing back to, we can scroll now, or should websites be designed for the user, everything above the fold?
I'm definitely supportive of above the fold theory, especially when you're on a desktop computer. That's the first thing the user sees before they scroll down. So obviously you're getting their attention right away with that message, whether it's imagery or it's copy or it's your statement. Definitely above the fold. But then above the fold also means, we have different interfaces, we have different screen sizes. So, there's responsive designs that scale down to a phone that, again, everything is first. It's basically, the theory is everything important is at the top, and then you scroll down to the bottom. So I think that theory, I think the web has evolved like greatly and really transitioned into a very design environment, which it wasn't before. For instance, I graduated school with completely no web knowledge at all in my school program. So it's something that has evolved to be, now my career, but it didn't used to be that way. It wasn't, the web didn't have too much of a design focus. And by design focus, I mean if you compare it to print, for instance, like newspapers or books or posters, these design principles have now been applied to the web over the last, I don't know, 10 years, I guess, 5 years maybe. But with a whole bunch of new components like interaction and usability and lots of things, that is why we're here in discussion now.
No, I mean, definitely I agree with the above the fold theory. Don't make your users suffer by scrolling on and on. You know, the users, they're becoming more and more impatient, so it's better to keep it that way, I think.
I'd like to offer a different view as well. It is important to have above the fold the most important things, for example, your navigation, your call to action, your main call to action. But a new trend in web design now is to provide the information in small chunks. And what you'll see in all the award-winning websites is, and this is something that's come about with Apple website and then tons of other websites following after that. Providing each part that you're looking at on a desktop, having key information in that area, having some call to action, and then moving on below with another key point and then a call to action. So you'll see that a lot of websites these days are doing this. And the reason why it works, or it's better, in my opinion, is because it allows the users to take time to understand your product, takes time for you to talk about your features. And even if it takes a little bit of scrolling, I think the experience is much more worthwhile instead of packing everything you have above the fold. But if we're talking about just what the benefit of putting everything above the fold is that your main call to action, that's the best place you want to put it in, above the fold. But other than that, I think the experience can be better, even if you have to scroll.
I definitely agree with what you're saying. With the new trend of having different sections as you scroll, but the first impression is really what I mean, is the most important thing, is first thing you see on the screen. And for that to be compelling, be designed, for it to be simple. I wasn't saying shove everything up above the fold at all. That's definitely not something you should do. What you should do above the fold is some very simple messaging. And like you said, call to action and great photography. That's a big fan of that.
I think there's a question.
Yes, Dev.
What do you guys think of Amazon.com's product landing pages? They're typically fairly long, fairly verbose, lots of images, for example. From a UX standpoint, I'd love to get your point of view on how they do their landing pages.
I think they recently redesigned their landing page. I'm not sure. No? Maybe? You don't know? No? Okay. I mean, it obviously works, right? That can be said for even eBay when it was what it was, and it's completely changed its design. So to say that it's not good is not really something I can say, because it's Amazon. They're they're one of the giants. But in terms of my personal taste, I'd say for a large e-commerce website that has lots of categories and lots of ways to browse, I think it works. I don't completely remember what it is right now, but the focus is for them is their search. They have a very powerful search. They have many different categories. We as Kobo, we have been working on improving our search, but there's always Amazon as an example. How do you for your autocomplete as well. All those things are very important. So I think Amazon is obviously doing something right, maybe with the way they do search, but I think I don't remember having like a hard time navigating with Amazon, and I think that's the case where you have lots of customers and you have sales, is if it's simple enough for people to navigate and find what they want and buy what they need and come back. And you could say the same thing for like Google for the longest time. and still is the same way with the blue links and the underlines, and keeping their design very primitive as it started. But over the last 5 years, Google has put a huge focus on design, as Larry Page has claimed is direction of his company. And as you can see, a lot of new things with Google are beautiful, including with Google Maps, and Google Plus is great. So there's lots of new focus on design, whereas it still doesn't mean their product was bad before that.
I totally don't like Amazon.com. I mean, I think they're really busy. I can't find, yes, as you said, they have a powerful search, but every time I go there, my eyes are just, I really don't like the way that they design their pages. And I think they started to become big, and then they never thought about improving how their site really look like, because they're big, everybody goes there, everybody knows what Amazon is. So does Apple, because I think somebody was telling me that Apple doesn't even have a mobile optimized site. So yeah, exactly, it's not responsive design. So it all depends on what the users are used to. I think the Amazon users are used to see all this information all at once, but I think it can be improved definitely, if they really think about the user experience and how the user is going to experience that.
I was on Amazon just the other day. I was looking for a rocker for my niece. It's her first birthday. So I have the page kind of fresh in my head. And some of the things that really jumped out at me from a user experience perspective is that they had really great reviews. A lot of times, most users online buy products when they see that they work for other people. And that's a really key psychological tactic a lot of sites can use, is to show that it worked for somebody else. Having social proof is really great in promoting products. So having a lot of reviews from a user perspective is great. Having useful or valuable way in which it's designed. So for example, they have reviews 20% said this product was great, and the flip side of that is 5% said it was not great or whatever. So there's very concise idea that you get by just quickly scanning the page how well the product was for most people, or how it wasn't. I also really appreciate the way they relate certain products to other products. So it makes the user stay on your website for a longer time. So for example, if you're looking for a cell phone cover, maybe they'll show you some other accessories that other users bought with that product. So I think these are all really useful things to have on a web page. For example, the reviews, related products, all that. But when we talk about design, I agree. I think they could use a lot of help in terms of the typography or line space or stuff like that. I think we have a question in the back.
So my question is combined between UX and SEO. I guess you're familiar with Best Buy's product pages. They have a bunch of little tabs on a page per product, and one of them is specs, the other one's reviews. How do you feel about that from a user interface perspective? And then I guess Steph should jump in and answer. How do you feel about that from an SEO perspective? I'll let you go first.
I don't know the Best Buy website.
I've been browsing in their website because I'm like a huge fan of gadgets, so that's why. And Future Shop too. So I like their website. I think it's pretty more organized compared to, let's say, Amazon. I didn't have any issues in terms of user experience, so I think they did a good job on it. I didn't see anything that was, and I'm a huge fan of them.
Just to clarify the question a little bit, when you were asking, did you mean, is it better to have information in tabs as opposed to out of tabs, by any chance?
Right, so you either have other tabs like Amazon does stack on
Yep.
page almost?
In a scrolling page. So basically, Amazon keeps all their information out in the open. You don't need to they don't hide any of the information. They obviously allow you to view more or view less, but for the most part, you can find it pretty easily. And then Best Buy is doing that by putting it into separate tabs so that the user has to click on the tab to view the information. I don't have a personal preference as to which one is better. I think if you were to look at it from the SEO perspective, then you would see that, okay, more people are clicking on links in those reviews, for example, if they're out in the open, as opposed to if they're hidden. From the experience perspective, when you put, if you put information inside tabs, you are doing that because you realize that the user knows for sure they want to click on reviews to read it. Having a user not know what they're looking for but still want to be convinced somehow, that information you want to keep it outside of tabs because they're not going to go looking for it. So that's just my perspective from user experience.
I think you can also do, this is a great project for an A/B test. So if you throw both of them out there and ask people the same question, or just see how they interact, just stand behind them. That's just a great way to do it. Ask a friend, stand behind them, tell them to do something, see if they do it, how long it takes, and then ask them if was that easy, or ask for their opinion. So I think really sometimes design is very subjective, right? It comes down to the test and the results and the users, the types of users. It could be kids might respond differently than an older generation to a certain kind of navigation, which is why you have to put it out there and see which one works. You can't really assume that kids are going to like tabs or kids are going to like drop downs, or and that's where all the user research comes in and all the data that you will support your decision to design a certain way.
I like to think of the web as almost like the judging a book by its cover concept. You can have the greatest content alive. You could be the next Shakespeare. You can have unbelievable blogs with the greatest sources. But if someone goes to your website and they see something that is I guess, sketchy in their way, and they're going to turn themselves away right away. It doesn't matter how good your content is if it isn't happy and bright and visual. Look at Pinterest and Instagram. Everyone's moving towards the whole picture aspect these days because we are visual people. We want to be able to see something that is appealing to the eyes. So I see like how the user experience comes into that. And I'd actually love to hear some great stories, something that you did for a client that you're really proud of, and that, like, it doesn't have to be with your current company. It could be anything that you've done in your experience with user experience.
I was trying to be prepared for this question. So it's a very, it's actually a very simple, basic thing that's not really it doesn't have too much to do with my skill or my background in design at all. So this was during my days. I was, working in a neighborhood and trying to do some community work. The festival, the first year the Big Emblor happened in 2008. It was a very limited number of people. There was me, and everyone was a volunteer. It was a very grassroots-driven festival, so no money for developers. We just had one guy who was organizing the event, sort of as a production production manager of the festival. He had some development background, and I had some, I had design background, so I couldn't really code anything too much. Anyway, so the festival became about participants having lots of vendors at the festival. It was just like an all over the place. Anyone can sign up, run a table, sell their stuff, sell their anything from nonprofit organization to just selling your cups that you make, and it was very affordable for anyone to sign up. The first year was $25 for the table, so we had this super giant long festival. The first couple of years, it was from Lansdowne to Christie. All of Bloor Street was shut down. That was a really big accomplishment for me to do, just as a designer. it had a huge impact on me. It made me feel kind of part of something really big. When you see barricades coming down and people going on the street for a festival that you kind of were part of making, was very rewarding. But a specific thing I did, or I recognized, was people were signing up using our really basic tool to sign up. They put in a picture, a description, and their name, and they paid their $25 online. And we had all that information, or actually the picture wasn't a requirement. It was just a description and the title of what they do and what their company's called. So we had all this information coming in. There was about 20-something people had started to sign up, so we're getting excited. Like people are signing up for this festival nobody knows about. The website isn't this amazing website. It's just like a really basic sign up here, put in your information. We had all this information, and I thought, why don't we show this information? It was just a really simple decision. So what happened was we ended up with this participants page that had, it wasn't like the best looking thing, I still admit, but it still made people feel that other people were coming. It had a link to their website. It helped sell their work and whatever they were doing. So, there was this giant list of just participants, and it actually helped bring in more participants because they saw that, there's all these people signing up to be vendors at this festival. So that simple act of just saying, why don't we just have a page that has this information of each person and kind of have like a quilt of all the participants, and that really, I think, is what made the festival happen, and it's happened every year since. So it's been going strong. I'm not a part of it anymore, but that was an initial my initial one success story from something really basic like that, because nobody had suggested that. It was, I'm right in there being part of something, and then to decide to do that actually made something more happen. And I think just sometimes it's really, really basic decisions.
I went there this summer. It's a lovely.
Did you?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Okay. I think for me as well, my number one UX success story started at the beginning of my career. When I was at Disney, I had a lull period where there wasn't much going on. And at the beginning, I was always so curious, and everything I touched, I wanted to make sure that it was working. I wanted to make sure the user is going to like this, or they're going to like interacting with it. So I worked at Club Penguin, which is owned by Disney. And one of the things that they did best was provide a online portal for kids. I don't know if you have nieces, nephews, kids of your own who are on Club Penguin. Can I get a show of hands to just get an idea of how many people know of Club Penguin? Okay, great. So if you've ever been on the website, I worked on it a little bit. One of the things that they really excel at is client support. So children support, basically. Children go on to the portal and play these little games and earn coins for it. And with the coins, they can buy, jackets and hats and cool things online. So one of the things that Club Penguin does well is support those users. And one of the key things in online gaming for kids is safety. So one of the things I wanted to focus on was how can we make the website or the material that's on the website focus on the in-game value that kids get from having moderators present all the time online. And it turns out when I went to the safety page that was on Club Penguin's website, there wasn't really much value being provided there. All the text was in regular font. There were no images. There was no conversion-focused material on there. Nothing about moderators. Well, a little bit about moderators, but not really called out. Or not. There wasn't anything about all the different features that the game provides to provide safety. And the reason why safety is important is because the people buying the product is not the children. It's their parents. It's their grandparents. So when you really understand who's the final buyer in the cycle and try to make sure that the content that is important to them is being delivered properly, that's fulfilling work. So for me, that was a UX success story, to actually go sit with the moderators for a day, watch the kinds of questions they get from kids, like, what do I do when somebody bullies me? Or what do I do if another kid keeps throwing snowballs at me? So, like cute questions like that. But you get to understand what are the real concerns. And from those insights, you then go back to whatever you're doing, your webpage or whatever, and you try to redesign it in a way that speaks to those questions. So that was my first kind of initiative, taking myself into the user research, understanding what the concerns are, coming up with a solution, and designing the page. And I was really happy with what the result was, because it kind of caught the attention of a lot of the moderators, which are really respected and really valuable to the Club Penguin team. So kind of achieving a sense of what your team members are experiencing. So I know that the moderators experience these questions constantly, and then you come up with a solution to solve a problem that exists, is really fulfilling to me. So that was one of my first ones.
Okay, well, I've been working for financial institutions and these corporations for quite a long time. So you would think that sometimes it's boring, but it's not all the time. So when I started with Scotiabank, we have this philanthropy program that is called Scotiabank Bright Future Program. And working with different campaigns and things that has to be delivered on time, and they're very, very tight deadlines, it makes you really think that, what value is there except for like making money, right? But this program, when I started to work on that, it made me really feel great, because it made me feel that we care about our communities, and this program is not only, it's actually international, so it's in all the Caribbean and Central American countries that we manage. So I basically sit down and I designed a whole interface. We did testing on it, and when it launched, I was very proud of the finished project. And it makes you feel that, even if you're working for a corporation, there are things that you can do to help your communities or people that you care about. So I think that was one of my most memorable UX design experience.
So we have a lot of people, yeah, actually, I'll take your question. Go ahead.
I have a quick question for you guys. So we've seen a lot of changes in terms of the online space. Like 10 years ago, the average age would probably be like 16 to 45 for demographics for online users. Right now, anybody from the age of 5 can access online, even e-commerce. Although the purchasing power falls to the parent, even if it is under 18. But for example, for Best Buy, like the gentleman was just saying, somebody that is 8 years old can be online looking for an MP3 player. What have been your biggest challenges in adjusting?
So adjusting to the age of the viewers.
I can answer that. One of the things that I really suggest for users is get into mobile. So if you're not on mobile these days, you're not, because more and more consumers are getting into mobile users. So if you have a site, make sure that the site is mobile optimized. Don't use Flash on it. The Flash completely, mostly in mobile devices is not gonna work properly. So I think the challenge could be, designing something that works for all the devices and all the ages. So we actually face that on an everyday basis, but I think if you really think about how to design for all the devices and make it more responsive design, then that could be the solution.
I would still come back to the point of I understand that younger age people are using products that you design. That's true, but at the end of the day, you're designing for a specific target audience that matters to your product. So if your target audience is 8-year-olds who are looking for MP3 players, for example, then you have to take into consideration their needs. But for products where that's not a concern, then it's not so much something you need to take into consideration. But to focus in on, say, your target audience is younger children, some things you want to keep in mind is kids may not have the best ability to click on a certain link if links are closely stacked together. So you might want to pay attention to line height of your links, or the size of buttons, or things like that. But the best way to go about it is to actually do user testing and get an idea for what kind of colors appeal to kids, or what kind of fonts, or there was one user study that we did at Disney where in a room of like 13 kids, I was part of facilitating new product research, and we actually found out that having larger buttons that were a lot more brighter or had some sort of interactivity around them tended to get more interactivity from younger kids as opposed to older kids. So there are things that you can find out by doing user research and then making sure that your product appeals to that demographic if that's what you're interested in.
There's specifically at Kobo, we are now going to be launching Kobo for Kids. So that's been a project I've been involved with, and what we did was we brought in kids, and our research team did, and they brought in kids and gave them the Kobo and asked them questions and watched them navigate, and they come back with feedback and tell us, they couldn't press and hold to select something. Or they didn't know how to get back to the home. So there's always feedback as to how kids navigate, and the only way you're going to find that out with your existing website or product is by giving it to kids and seeing if they can do what you ask them to do. And then taking the feedback and adjusting your design based on that. And one of our suggestions, which we'll eventually do, is have like an interactive FTE. FTE is a first-time experience. So if a child user logs into Kobo, they get a first time, kind of like a tutorial on how to do these certain things, and then they can basically interact with it so that they understand how it works, and using really simple language. So that's something we want to do for kids account users to help them navigate the product better.
So we don't have a lot of time left, but I just wanted to know, what are some, there's a lot of people that are writing notes. What are some great websites or great programs that some of our audience could download that would help with their blog or their website in terms of user experience?
I think you have a lot of them.
Well, it depends on what kind of tools, obviously, you want to use for your website. Let's say if you want to do mock-up for your website, which I really suggest that if you do it, because at the beginning, at the beginning stage of your project is to do site mapping and see where your site is going. Don't go and just design something that you don't know where the map is or where things are going. So one of the tools that I use is called Balsamic. It's not vinegar. And this one you can download it if you go to Google Chrome. It's like an app, and it's also a stand-by-itself software that you can download. The spelling I have to look because I'm not sure exactly.
Balsamic with a Q.
Yeah, exactly. So.
C is a Q at the end.
Yeah, the C is a Q. So this one is very useful if you want to do mockups. I came across this really great app too, again, in Google Chrome. I'm not sure if they have a standalone software, but if you want to do visual collaboration between your team, it's called, and I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly, it's called Murali. Again, let me see the spelling. Yeah, Murally. It's Murally. I'm not sure if anybody has heard about them or not. No, not really. Because I know a lot of people heard about Basecamp, there's Teamwork PM, but this one is pretty good because what you can do is you can drag things inside this environment, visual environment, and you can invite your team members and they can come in and they can collaborate. And this is in real time, so you don't have to email back and forth or, I'm not sure. I think Teamwork allows you to have some kind of interaction with your team members, but this one is very real time, so I really suggest people to use it. And it's in Google Chrome, so if you go to Google Store and you type it, you will be able to find it.
I'll start with wireframing. If you're looking to wireframe your website page before you actually push it into mock-up stage, which is all your colors, your fonts, everything. Before that, you want to have a really quick skeleton of where things are going to sit. The software that I love to use is Xure RP. It's an industry trusted software for wireframing. The way you spell that is AXURE space RP. The RP is rapid prototyping, so you can also prototype your wireframes. And they have great tutorials online. You can totally take a look and start wireframing yourself. For user flows and for site mapping, OmniGraffle is a great software. It's really easy to use. You can pretty much pick it up yourself and start on that. And one interesting tool which I discovered recently within the past year is by Steven Anderson, and it's called Mental Notes. And this product is really cool. It's a bunch of cards that you get in a nice leather box, and it's got a whole bunch of really cool psychological tips and tricks that you can use to motivate your users to do the kinds of tasks that they want to do, and you're trying to draw their attention to doing those things. Each of the cards have one psychological tidbit on it, and then it says how you can use it in your process when you're thinking about, making sure that users finish creating their profile, for example, or that people adopt products more easily by using social proof, or, for example, the peak end rule, which is like, you might have a great experience, but if your last step is really crap, you're really going to lose your entire memorability of that experience. So understanding how psychology works is a great tool, so I really recommend you guys to check it out. Again, it's Mental Tools, and you can get it online. I think it's about $40 or $50. Yeah.
I'm just going to add a quick tool. Just paper and pencil is where you should start. That's simple to get. It's free, probably. If you've got to buy a pencil, you can buy one, and paper. And then you can use markers. That's how I start. So that's the best tool I suggest.
So, yeah, I think let's take one more question. Yeah, go ahead.
Just wondering about what your approach is for responsive design. Like, if a customer says they want to do a responsive site, is it something that you do near the end of the process, or is it something that you incorporate at the beginning, or what's your approach?
It's definitely from the beginning. You have to redo your site in order to make it responsive. So if it's not, it's programmed that way, or designed that way. It's a different battle. So you have to begin knowing that your site you want it to be responsive. Then you design at every So for instance, the Kobo website is now responsive. I wasn't part of the web team that created that. Well, I am now, but the website's launched. I wasn't part of the actual design. But we changed from a non-responsive design to a brand new, completely responsive design, which is actually pretty new for, well, I wouldn't say it's new, but it's a pretty big task for a giant e-commerce company that is constantly selling stuff. So it was a big project, and it was a complete, toss out everything from before and start from scratch, and lots of money went into it. Yeah, you definitely have to realize that that's something you find value in, and then it doesn't have to be responsive. I think so responsive, it means different things. An actual responsive design is the same site on every device, but some sites are mobile optimized, which is when you see the M dot before the website, which means that it's not actually the same website as you see online. It's optimized to be designed for a mobile device. So that's when you can actually, some people or some companies who start off with a non-mobile optimized site, they can then make a mobile optimized version of their site. So they're kind of two different things, but they're both valuable.
So I just wanted to ask, so basically I guess one of the first things you've got to do is decide if the customer needs to have a separate mobile site.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to really feel like it's valuable for your website to look as if it was meant to be viewed on that device. So if I'm looking at a website on my iPhone and it's taking the original website and scaling it down, that's not responsive. It's not designed for that interface. So therefore, it kind of limits the experience. It makes it look like you didn't really think about mobile users. So it's definitely something you should target, because people are on more devices than they are on desktop devices. So a lot of the interfaces or the screen sizes are small. So you have to really cater to those people as well.
So unfortunately, I had to break because it is 3:05 now. But we just got coffee, so feel free to help yourselves and go network again. And then
Yeah, we'll be back.